Yeah, my name is Ivan Raiklin. I'm a retired Lieutenant Colonel, Green Beret. Used to serve for 25 years in our entire national security apparatus as a, like I said, Green Beret, intelligence officer, military diplomat, also as a constitutional attorney. As it applies to why we're here in Texas, I served as the Special Forces Company Commander in San Antonio in the Texas National Guard. Served with Doc Pete Chambers, who's sitting right behind me, both overseas and domestically. Countering ISIS overseas is one of the missions that I deployed with Doc Pete Chambers on. And domestically, when we were doing humanitarian assistance and disaster relief efforts in response to Hurricane Harvey back in 2018 at this point. So a little bit about me. What I currently do after retiring in 2022 is I'm the Deep State Marauder. And what that really means is that I, understanding the system, because the last two positions that I held as a reservist and as a full-time instructor at the Defense Intelligence Agency was that I taught intelligence analysis, national security, our national intelligence kind of infrastructure to our junior, mid, and senior sometimes officials about our national security system, okay? And then in the reserves, I was a technology scout out in Silicon Valley in the greater Bay Area. Our higher headquarters actually was in Austin, obviously because of the tech hub there in the 75th Innovation Command, as well as in Houston. So that's the Texas connectivity, but more broadly is that I know the system, having been in it, having taught about it, both coasts, right, as well as in Texas. What does that mean? That means I can basically go into as much detail as you would like on the entire deep state by name, date, place, and transgression, going back 10 years, and if you really want, I can go back 50 years, back at 51 at this point, back to 1973, about January timeframe. I'm not going to do that here in this interview. I've done numerous interviews, whether it's on Hodge twins, Tucker Carlson, Dan Bongino just had me on for a little bit at the convention, and then some other platforms, Alpha Warrior. But I do kind of independent investigative analysis and then provide that information to the appropriate constitutional office holders so that they have won the courage, the knowledge, expertise to be able to go to the maximum level that their position allows to hold these scum to account. And what does that mean? At the federal level, that means I'm working with the Judiciary Committee, the Weaponization Committee, Subcommittee, the Oversight Committee that's chaired by Congressman Rep. James Comer, and previously Judiciary and Weaponization by Jim Jordan. The Oversight Subcommittee, House Administration Committee, headed up by Barry Loudermilk. And then, so on the congressional side, those are primarily the committees that I try to provide my evidence to, depending on what it relates to, whether it's the DOJ's corruption, the Department of Homeland Security's corruption. Then we work with Congressman Mark Green, who's the chair of that committee. If it's the Department of Defense, then, well, we don't have a functioning House Armed Services Committee chairman because he's complicit in the corruption. So we don't really work with him. We work with other members of that committee that are able to leverage their voice and platform to expose the illegal DOD jab mandate, right? Whether it's Matt Gaetz is helping us with that, or the Subcommittee on Personnel and Readiness in the name of Jim Banks, Indiana Congressman. So we're working with those members of Congress that are willing to participate in this, as well as the COVID Select Committee. Really the only functioning member on that committee is Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then Thomas Massey. I would say those would be some of the members that I like to work with to continue to expose the deep state. And so I've created a target list known as the Deep State Target List, and some of the radical left domestic terrorist affiliated organizations known as New Woke Slimes or Washington Compost or Criminal News Network, or some of the kind of secondary players such as I pronounce them, Raw Sewage, a publication, whether it's Smother Jokes, or whether it's Roytards, another British outlet. All these scum publications try to come after me and label me as the biggest villain in the history of humanity because I've created a deep state target list. And I have individuals on there by category of transgression to our constitutional order, to the tune of about 600 individuals at this point. And those are individuals that need to be actioned. Now, I get it. They try to confound and confuse my background as a Green Beret intel officer, targeting that we've done maybe overseas, with me potentially doing some sort of activity that's unlawful here domestically. I never advocate for anything illegal. I always advocate for the most legal, moral, ethical, peaceful, and patriotic consequence for criminal behavior to the maximum level. But what does that mean? Well, it means that I am now basically positioning myself to be not the Deep State Marauder. We're now moving into a kind of a phase where I am the Secretary of Retribution. What does that mean? Well, retribution, when you actually look at the definition of it, is creating maximum consequences for criminal, illegal behavior. Nothing negative. It's having a one-tiered justice system. Equal protection under the law. Equal justice applied under the law. And so here, I'm at this convention of Texas Sheriff's Association. In order to inform the sheriffs that are in attendance and their affiliates and networks, and by extension, their district attorneys in those counties, to let them know, hey, guess what? I am helping coordinate Elon Musk, all the criminal evidence that he has in Twitter holdings, whether it's the internal emails, whether it's the internal Slack channels that were used to coordinate with these federal government deep state actors, or whether it's within the direct messages of their Twitter accounts, such as Jamie Raskin, his wife Sarah Raskin, whether it's Jim Comey, the former FBI director, or John Brennan, the former CIA director, and the other 51 spies who lied to the American people, or the 39 that illegally unmasked General Flynn and spied on him illegally, and Carter Page and George Papadopoulos as they defrauded the FISA court, or whether it's the team that was part of the fake whistleblower scheme once Robert Mueller was ridden with dementia and didn't find a single piece of evidence showcasing that there was any Russia involvement with the Trump campaign and the Trump presidency. And so now it's time to hold all of these scum to account. And the way we do that is at the state attorney general and the county sheriff and district attorney level. How do we do that is the question. Here's how I answer that. We take the one person that has the most amount of criminal evidence in their possession, Elon Musk through Twitter, take that, curate all that evidence through IP geotagging and through Twitter holding geotagging of metadata, take that and determine where criminal actions took place based on those individuals on the deep state target list that have a Twitter account or communicated with Twitter, such as Kamala Harris's comms team, who used to be employees of Twitter 1.0. I want to expose all of that and then take that criminal evidence and give it to name one of the 254 counties here in Texas, and then help them action those targets in the most legal, moral, and ethical way possible. And I think the best way to do that is for Attorney General Ken Paxton to subpoena Elon Musk's criminal evidence. And guess what? A few days ago, Elon Musk just moved his headquarters for Twitter from California to Texas. Now, Attorney General Ken Paxton has the jurisdiction to go ahead and subpoena those records, and I would suspect that Elon Musk would be readily and happily willing to play ball, because he just publicly went all in for President Trump, didn't he, folks? And so that criminal evidence he can provide to Ken Paxton. He can provide to Jim Jordan of Judiciary after a subpoena. He can send it over to Jim Comer. He can send it over to Barry Loudermilk as he uses that evidence to prove the Fedsurrection of January 6th and its subsequent cover-up. He can prove all of the weaponization and the censorship industrial complex as it applies to the investigations going on with the weaponization and judiciary committees. All the illegal spying, the FISA, the Durham investigative report is going to be matched and supported by even further evidence of that collusion and the treasonous activity within Twitter holdings that's going to be proven. And Jim Comer, all previous and current members of the White House, anybody that currently works at the National Archives that had any communications with Twitter 1.0, anybody involved in trying to go ahead and to cancel and suspend folks for talking about the illegal election, the illegal certification of the 2020 election, the illegal conduct of the election. every single criminal conspiracy that they tried to cover up through the censorship industrial complex, with the help of Reuters, the official fact checker of Twitter 1.0. By the way, the CEO of Reuters, also on the board of Pfizer. Now you know why Twitter 1.0 was censoring folks that said ivermectin is a therapeutic drug that works. But they were censored and suspended. Those people can now be charged with conspiracy to commit murder, because those people that could have used ivermectin to save themselves and instead died, guess what? They died because of the censorship industrial complex. We're going to get these people for mass murder, genocide, mutilation, child mutilation, asphyxiation when people were told you need to wear a mask, child endangerment, child neglect, the promotion of mutilation of children's bodies through the genital mutilation across the board from county level. Any school board that voted to promote the mutilation of children, to put a mask on them, to have them inject their nose with a medical nose rape known as a PCR test, every single instance of that is a felony, America. The evidence of that curated, manipulated scheme from the FBI down to the county board level, every single person will be the defendant in a massive criminal conspiracy that we call, for short, Nuremberg 2.0 on steroids times a trillion. I am personally going to guarantee that those consequences are had, and I am trying to solicit the help to expedite that with Elon Musk, that has been giving all the indicators that he is on board by moving all of his assets from California to Texas. And now we can now enlist district attorneys and sheriffs here in Texas. That's probably why I'm here, as I'm explaining to them. Be prepared to receive this evidence. And if you don't have enough people to work this problem set, you have 80,000 military service members like myself and Doc Chambers and the broader community that left the Department of Defense early due to the illegal jab mandate, that have the training, knowledge, expertise, and the passion to hold these people to account as deputies, so that we, the tens of thousands of us, can support Texas to conduct maximum legal, moral, ethical consequences for treason. And last time I checked, it would be objectively reasonable for certain individuals on the list to receive the same consequence that was provided by Michael Byrd, U.S. Capitol Police Officer, to Ashley Babbitt. I think some people would agree with me on that. Let me remind you, U.S. Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd shot point blank Ashley Babbitt, an unarmed First Amendment, peaceful, unarmed First Amendment election justice rally attendee on January 6th. That conduct was considered objectively reasonable. I think we're going to have several hundreds to thousands instances of objectively reasonable using that precedent as we go ahead and create consequences to those individuals that have conducted treason based on the evidence as outlined by Twitter Holdings, as we apply it to each county and in the state of Texas and other states that want to go ahead and create the maximum consequences that are objectively reasonable to those traitors. And another example is the objectively reasonable beatdown that officer of Metropolitan Police Department, Lila Morris, did on another First Amendment unarmed peaceful election justice rally attendee by the name of Roseanne Boyland. The precedent has already been set in Manhattan by Alvin Bragg. The precedent has already been set by Fannie Willis in Fulton County. Now we take that precedent to apply it to a list of, at a minimum, 600 people on my deep state target list. What are your questions?
That's a lot of information. When are you going to release everything?
September 3rd is when amnesty ends. So if you're not a principal on my deep state target list and you're a staffer, you know these people, friend, family, neighbor, staffer, you have until September 3rd to read my Substack article that lays out what you need to do to be a whistleblower. If you fail to be a whistleblower, and we later find out as Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, and myself and others look through the Twitter files, the mother of all Twitter files, that I expect to be released on September 3rd, if you don't come out as a whistleblower, you will be treated as a co-conspirator. And you're going to have to, I guess, try your luck. Because if your name comes up in the Twitter files, we will treat you similarly. The way you lower and mitigate your legal risk is to come out now, and we will provide you some level of amnesty. Otherwise, all bets are off, and you will be treated as a co-conspirator to the crime. You can look at the Deep State target list. It's published, it's online, to see if you have any insight. And just to give you a little perspective, if you know about the illegal spying operation, if you're in the Department of Justice or the FBI, and you know about the criminal actions that you and your colleagues did as part of Crossfire Hurricane, the Mueller team, the impeachment hoax 1 and 2, if you're one of the 51 or staff or members or family, friends, neighbors of the 51 spies who lied to cover for the Biden criminal syndicate laptop, you better be a whistleblower. Otherwise, you're going to create a lot more work for us to then be able to come after you, okay? Legally, morally, ethically, to the maximum, okay? September 3rd.
One question. I don't know if I'm on the same level as you are, but what would you say to the DOJ on this issue that you're talking about?
Yeah.
The information
specifically.
you've given me. DOJ has been very evasive on a lot of things, and they're finally turning around and making changes to a lot of the decisions they made. With this information you have, do you think they'll stop whatever you're doing with Twitter or X?
So, let me list some names for you. If you're listening, well, this is directed to the following individuals. It's not if you're listening. I know you're listening to me. Jim Comey, listen closely. Andy McCabe, listen closely. Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Joseph Pienka, Brian Auten, Elvis Chan. I want you to listen very closely. Your staff that's listening, if you don't come forward, you will be treated in the exact same manner that we will dispense with all the names that I just listed. In addition to that, I want to throw in another name. Peter Strzok's employee at the time, Catherine Seaman. Everyone knows, Catherine, that you were Pete Strzok's lead Russia analyst, right? And you're married to Josh Pitcock, who was Mike Pence's chief of staff. Everyone knows this. So, if you don't want me to come after you to the maximum allowable under the law, meaning I will investigate you until, well, a consequence will be created. If you don't want that, well, I think it's about time for you to come out, particularly Joe Pientka III. You're probably the only one in the entire names that I just mentioned over at the FBI that I have not found any illegal activity conducted. You are still in the system. If you come out, and all these names, all these people that want to come out and come clean, or at least mitigate their level of risk for criminal and civil consequences, you need to reach out to number one, Jim Jordan, his staff, and CC me, info@raiklin.com. If you don't know how to get a hold of Jim Jordan, his staff, the Judiciary, the Weaponization Committee, you can contact me. I will facilitate that in good faith so that you don't face the maximum consequences that you can face, okay? That would be my message to them. That's Chris, and that's also some names I want to add to that are Christopher Wray. You're listening in. You monitor everything I do. I may or may not monitor everything you do. Okay? I didn't say I did. I may or may not be, and so is my team. Possibly. Physically and digitally. The technology is there for you to do what to me? The technology is also there for me to do what to you? I'll leave it up to you to come up with what your imagination can come up with. Okay? So, when I make my bold statements with such high confidence, I may or may have not already seen it all. But we're just waiting on Elon Musk to go ahead and share that information publicly or through Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, who will then issue that criminal evidence to the appropriate jurisdiction and maybe even coordinate it with other attorneys general throughout the country, such as the Attorney General in Kansas, Chris Kobach, especially as it applies to good old Pfizer. The Attorney General in Missouri, in Louisiana, and the list goes on and on. It's going to be so glorious as the days tick. Tomorrow will mark, actually, let's just say today, in 6 weeks. You have 6 weeks remaining in your amnesty period. After that, good luck. Good luck.